The rain fell softly over Los Angeles, painting silver streaks across the windows of a quiet cafe tucked away from the busy streets. Inside, a man wearing a simple black jacket sat alone at a corner table. Most people who passed by barely noticed him, but if they looked carefully, they would recognize him instantly. It was Keanu Reeves. Despite his worldwide fame, Keanu had never been comfortable with attention. He preferred simple moments, sharing a conversation with a stranger, reading a book, or sitting quietly with his thoughts, and today, his thoughts were focused on one person, his mother. As he stirred his coffee absent-mindedly, memories began to flood his mind. He remembered being a little boy, watching his mother work tirelessly to provide for the family. Life had never been easy for them. There had been difficult years filled with uncertainty, financial struggles, and constant moving from one place to another. While other children enjoyed stable homes and predictable routines, Keanu often found himself adapting to new schools, new neighborhoods, and new challenges. Yet through every hardship, one thing remained constant. His mother's love. Patricia had always found a way to smile, even when life seemed determined to test her. She encouraged her children to dream. She taught them kindness, and she never allowed adversity to define them. Keanu often wondered how she managed to stay strong. As a child, he didn't fully understand the sacrifices she made, but as an adult, he understood everything. Every extra shift, every sleepless night, every dream she quietly postponed so her children could pursue theirs. Those sacrifices became clearer with each passing year. And lately, one particular memory kept returning. Years earlier, when he was still struggling to establish himself in Hollywood, he had overheard his mother speaking with a friend. She didn't know he was listening. The conversation seemed ordinary at first. Then her friend asked a simple question. If you could have one thing in the world, what would it be? Patricia laughed softly. A small house near the ocean, she replied. Nothing fancy, just somewhere peaceful. Keanu remembered the exact way she said it. Not with expectation, not with hope. But with acceptance. As though she already knew it would never happen. That memory stayed with him. And now, years later, it had become impossible to ignore. Gentle smile appeared on his face. Maybe it was time. Maybe it was finally time to give something back. Not because he owed her. Because no gift could ever repay a lifetime of love, but because some people deserve to see their dreams come true, especially those who spend their lives helping others achieve theirs. The following week, Keanu quietly began planning. He told almost no one. The fewer people involved, the better. He wanted the surprise to be genuine. Over the next several months, he visited properties throughout California. Many of them were beautiful. Some were enormous estates with breathtaking views. Others featured luxury amenities that would impress anyone. But none felt right. Because he wasn't searching for extravagance. He was searching for peace. He remembered exactly what his mother had described years earlier. A small house. Near the ocean. Simple. Comfortable. A place where she could wake up every morning and hear the sound of waves. One afternoon, after visiting countless locations, he finally found it. The property sat on a quiet stretch of coastline. White fences framed the yard. Colorful flowers bloomed along a stone pathway. Large windows overlooked the sea. The house wasn't massive. It wasn't designed to attract headlines, but it possessed something far more valuable. Warmth. The moment Keanu stepped inside, he felt it. This was the place. He walked through each room slowly. The living room welcomed sunlight through wide windows. The kitchen felt inviting. The garden overlooked the ocean. Everything about the property felt peaceful. He could already imagine his mother sitting on the porch with a cup of tea, watching the sunset. For the first time in months, he felt certain the search was over. The dream house had been found, but Keanu wanted the surprise to mean more than a new home. He wanted it to tell a story of gratitude, a story of appreciation, a story that reminded his mother how much she mattered. To make that happen, he reached out to people who had known Patricia throughout her life, old friends, former colleagues, family members. Many were surprised when he contacted them, but all were eager to help, one by one. They shared stories about Patricia's kindness stories about her generosity stories about moments when she helped others despite having very little herself. Some stories made Keanu laugh. Others brought tears to his eyes. One former coworker remembered Patricia giving away her lunch to someone who had forgotten theirs. Another remembered how she stayed late after work to help struggling employees. A childhood friend recalled Patricia encouraging her through one of the most difficult periods of her life. The pattern was unmistakable. Wherever Patricia went, she left people better than she found them, and she never asked for recognition. Listening to these stories made Keanu realize something powerful. His mother hadn't just changed his life, she had changed countless lives. Most people would never know, but their gratitude remained. As plans continued, something unexpected happened. The project began affecting everyone involved. Workers decorating the house became emotionally invested. Neighbors offered assistance. Friends volunteered their time. What started as a private gift slowly evolved into something larger. It became a celebration of a woman whose kindness had touched so many people. Months passed. The house was prepared. The details were finalized. Everything was nearly ready. Then came the hardest part, keeping the secret. Patricia noticed her son seemed unusually busy. Whenever she asked what he was working on, he simply smiled. Just a few projects, he would say. She accepted the explanation. After all, Keanu had always been private. Still, she sensed something, not enough to guess the truth, but enough to know something was different. One evening, they met for dinner at a small restaurant they both loved. As they talked, Patricia shared stories from years ago. Stories about family. Stories about challenges. Stories about lessons learned. Keanu listened carefully. At one point she paused. "You know," she said softly, "I'm proud of you." He smiled. "I learned from the best." She laughed. Double quotes. "No, you became your own person." The words stayed with him, because the truth was exactly the opposite. So much of who he had become originated with her. His humility. His compassion. His respect for others. Those values had been planted long before fame arrived, and they continued guiding him every day. As the date of the surprise approached, anticipation grew. The house was ready. The guests were prepared. The memories had been collected. Only one thing remained: the reveal itself. On a bright Saturday morning, Keanu called his mother. "I need your help with something," he said casually. "Help?" she asked. "Just a small event." "What kind of event?" "You'll see." She laughed. "That's not suspicious at all. Trust me, I always do." Those words struck him deeply. Trust me. For years, she had trusted him, believed in him, supported him, even when success was uncertain, even when failure seemed possible. Now it was his turn to give something back. A few hours later, Patricia arrived at the designated location. A private vehicle waited nearby. Several close friends were present. Family members smiled warmly. She looked confused. "What is all this?" Keanu grinned. "An adventure." The group climbed aboard. As they traveled along the coastline, Patricia continued asking questions. Nobody answered. The mystery only deepened. Eventually, the vehicle stopped. Outside stood a beautiful oceanfront property. Very house Keanu had chosen months earlier. Patricia stared silently. She admired the flowers, the porch. The view, the peaceful atmosphere. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "It is." For a moment she simply looked at the house. Then she turned toward her son. "Why are we here?" Keanu smiled. The answer was finally ready. And in that moment, neither of them realized that what would happen next would leave every person present fighting back tears. End of part 1. The ocean breeze moved gently through the flowers lining the pathway as Patricia stood silently before the beautiful coastal home. For several moments, nobody spoke. The waves crashing in the distance seemed to fill the silence. Patricia looked from the house to her son and back again. The expression on her face was a mixture of curiosity and confusion. "Keanu," she said softly, "what exactly is going on?" A warm smile appeared on his face. He had imagined this moment hundreds of times. Yet now that it had arrived, even he felt emotional. Instead of answering immediately, he extended his hand. "Come walk with me." Patricia accepted. Together, they walked slowly along the stone pathway toward the front porch. Family members and close friends followed behind at a respectful distance. Nobody wanted to interrupt the moment. The closer Patricia came to the house, the more she seemed captivated by it. The flowers, the sunlight reflecting off the windows, the endless ocean view. Everything felt peaceful. As though the property had somehow been waiting for her. When they reached the porch, Keanu stopped. He turned toward her. "Do you remember something you said years ago?" Patricia laughed lightly. "That depends. I've said many things over the years. You once told a friend that if you could have one thing in the world, it would be a small house near the ocean." Patricia froze. Her eyes widened slightly. The memory returned instantly. "I remember, you thought nobody heard you." She stared at him. "You heard that conversation." "I did." A gentle silence followed. The realization was beginning to form, but Patricia still couldn't fully believe what her heart was telling her. Keanu reached into his jacket pocket. Slowly, he pulled out a small envelope. Then he handed it to her. Confused, Patricia opened it. Inside was a set of keys. She looked at them. Then at him. Then back at the keys. For a brief moment, the world seemed to stand still. Her hands trembled. "No." The word escaped as barely a whisper. Tears immediately filled her eyes. "No." Her voice broke. Keanu nodded. "This house is yours." The key slipped slightly in her trembling hands. Patricia covered her mouth. The emotion hit her like a wave. Not because of the house itself, but because of what it represented. Years of love, years of gratitude, years of memories. Everything she had sacrificed. Everything she had given. Everything she had done for her family. In that moment, she understood that her son had remembered it all. Every struggle, every difficult season, every challenge she thought nobody noticed, they hadn't gone unnoticed. Not by him. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything." Before another word could be spoken, Patricia embraced him tightly. The crowd behind them wiped away tears. Several people openly cried. It wasn't the value of the home that moved them. It was the love behind it. The sincerity. The gratitude. The recognition. For years, Patricia had given to others. Now, for perhaps the first time, she was receiving something she never expected. When they finally stepped apart, Keanu gently gestured toward the front door. "There's something else." Patricia laughed through tears. "There's more, a little more," with shaking hands. She opened the door. The moment she stepped inside, another surprise awaited. The living room had been carefully prepared. Photographs covered the walls. Not random photographs. Memories. A lifetime of memories. Pictures from childhood. Family gatherings. Birthdays. School events. Holidays, moments that had shaped their lives. Patricia slowly walked through the room. Every photograph represented a chapter. Every chapter represented love. Near the fireplace stood a large framed message. At the top were simple words, "For the woman who never gave up." Patricia immediately became emotional again. Below the title were dozens of handwritten notes, messages from friends. Family members. Former coworkers. People whose lives she had touched. One by one, she began reading them. The first note came from an old friend she hadn't spoken to in years. It described a difficult period when Patricia had offered support without expecting anything in return. The second note came from a former colleague, the third, the fourth, the fifth. Each message told a different story, yet all shared a common theme. Kindness. Compassion. Generosity. As Patricia read, she repeatedly shook her head in disbelief. "I didn't even remember this." Keanu smiled. They did. More guests began arriving. People from different stages of her life. Some had traveled across the country. Others had not seen her in decades. Every arrival brought another emotional reunion. Laughter echoed through the house. Stories filled the rooms. Memories resurfaced. The celebration became something much larger than a gift. It became a tribute. As the afternoon progressed, everyone gathered in the backyard overlooking the ocean. Tables had been arranged beneath elegant white canopies. Fresh flowers decorated every corner. The setting sun cast golden light across the water. It felt magical. A small stage stood near the edge of the property. Eventually, Keanu stepped forward. The conversations quieted. Everyone turned toward him. For a moment, he simply looked around. At his mother. At the guests. At the people who had come to honor her. Then he began speaking. When people talk about success, they usually focus on achievements. The audience listened carefully. They talk about careers, awards, accomplishments. He paused. But I've learned something important. The ocean breeze moved gently through the crowd. The most important success is becoming the kind of person who helps others. Patricia lowered her eyes, already emotional. And if I know anything about that, it's because of my mother. The guests applauded softly. Keanu continued, growing up wasn't always easy. His voice remained calm. There were challenges. There were uncertainties. He glanced toward Patricia. But no matter what happened, she always found a way forward. Many guests nodded. They knew those stories. They had witnessed those years. She taught us resilience. Another pause. She taught us kindness. More applause. And she taught us that character matters more than circumstances. Patricia wiped away fresh tears. For years she had quietly tried to teach those lessons. Now she was hearing them reflected back through the life of her son. It was one of the greatest gifts a parent could receive. Keanu smiled. Most people never see the sacrifices parents make. The audience grew silent. They don't see the worries. They don't see the sleepless nights. They don't see the dreams parents put aside. His voice became slightly softer. But those sacrifices matter. Every word came directly from the heart, and today is simply my way of saying thank you. The crowd erupted into applause. Several guests stood. Others wiped tears from their eyes. Patricia herself could barely speak. For perhaps the first time in her life, she was being celebrated not for what she achieved professionally, but for who she was as a person. And that recognition meant everything. After the speech, dinner was served. The atmosphere became warm and joyful. Guests shared stories. Old friendships rekindled. Laughter echoed across the property. As darkness settled over the coastline, string lights illuminated the garden. The entire scene looked like something from a dream. At one table, Patricia sat listening as people recounted memories she had long forgotten. One woman described how Patricia had encouraged her during a difficult career transition. Another remembered receiving unexpected support after losing a loved one. A third shared how Patricia's advice had changed her life decades earlier. Again and again, Patricia heard stories she never knew existed. Small acts of kindness. Tiny moments, simple conversations. Things she barely remembered, yet those moments had mattered deeply to others. The realization moved her profoundly. Sometimes we never truly know the impact we have on people. Sometimes the smallest kindness creates the biggest difference. As evening continued, a video presentation appeared on a large outdoor screen. Patricia watched in amazement. Messages arrived from people unable to attend. Friends from different countries. Former co-workers. Extended family. Each person shared a memory. Each person expressed gratitude. Each person told a story. By the end of the presentation, there wasn't a dry eye in the audience. Even Keanu found himself emotional. Because what began as a surprise gift had revealed something unexpected. His mother's legacy. Not measured by wealth. Not measured by fame, but measured by lives touched. He realized that the greatest gift Patricia had ever given wasn't to him alone. It was the example she set. The example that continued influencing others long after the moments themselves had passed. Later that evening, after most guests had finished celebrating, Patricia stepped onto the porch overlooking the ocean. The moon reflected across the water. The house felt peaceful. Quiet. Perfect. A few moments later, Keanu joined her. Neither spoke immediately. They simply watched the waves. Finally, Patricia broke the silence. You know what makes this special? What? She smiled. It's not the house. Keanu looked surprised. No, she shook her head. The house is beautiful. Then she glanced back toward the celebration inside. But what matters most is knowing that love was behind every detail. Her eyes filled with tears once more. You remembered. Keanu smiled gently. Of course I remembered. Patricia looked toward the ocean. For years she had focused on helping others. She had never expected recognition, never expected rewards, never expected anything in return, yet somehow, through all those years, love had been quietly growing. And now it had returned in a way she never imagined. The waves continued rolling onto the shore, the stars filled the night sky, and standing together on that porch, mother and son shared a moment neither would ever forget, a moment built not by wealth, not by fame, but by gratitude, and deep in her heart, Patricia knew something important. The greatest surprise wasn't the house, the greatest surprise was discovering how much her sacrifices had truly meant. The morning after the celebration arrived, quietly. Golden sunlight streamed through the large windows of the oceanfront home as gentle waves rolled onto the shore. Below, for the first time, Patricia woke up inside the house that now belonged to her. For several moments, she simply sat in bed, listening, the sound of the ocean, the distant cry of seabirds. The peaceful silence that seemed impossible to find in a busy world. Then she smiled, not because she owned a beautiful home, but because every corner of it carried a reminder of something far more meaningful. Love. The previous day still felt unreal. The surprise. The guests. The speeches. The stories. The memories. It all seemed like a dream. As she walked toward the kitchen, she noticed something resting on the dining table, a handwritten letter. She immediately recognized the handwriting. Keanu. Slowly, she unfolded it. The message was simple. Mom, you spent your life helping others build their futures. You encouraged dreams. You offered strength when people needed it. You gave more than anyone will ever fully understand. This home is not a repayment. Love can never be repaid. It's simply a reminder that your kindness mattered. Thank you for every sacrifice. Thank you for every lesson. Thank you for believing when things were difficult. Most importantly, thank you for being you. Love, Keanu. Double quotes. By the time she reached the final line, tears filled her eyes once again. She folded the letter carefully and placed it against her heart. Some gifts become more valuable with time. This was one of them. Over the following weeks, Patricia gradually settled into her new life. Unlike many people who might have focused on decorating or entertaining guests, she found herself appreciating the simplest moments. Morning walks along the shoreline. Reading books on the porch. Watching sunsets paint the horizon with brilliant colors. Enjoying coffee while listening to the waves. There was a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in years. For most of her life, she had been focused on responsibilities. Work. Family. Challenges. Helping others. Now, for the first time, she allowed herself to slow down. Not because she had stopped caring about others, but because she finally understood something important. Rest is not selfish. Even the strongest people need time to breathe. One afternoon, several weeks after moving in, Patricia found herself looking through old photo albums. Images from decades earlier filled the pages. Photographs of birthdays. Family vacations. School events. Small moments that once seemed ordinary. As she turned each page, she realized how quickly life passes. When you're living through difficult times, it often feels like the challenges will last forever. Yet somehow, years become decades. Children become adults. Dreams evolve. And one day, you find yourself looking back at a journey you never expected to survive. Patricia paused at a photograph of a young Keanu. He couldn't have been more than 10 years old. His smile was wide, his future completely unknown. Looking at that picture made her laugh softly. Someone had told her then what his life would become. She never would have believed it. Success. Recognition. Accomplishments. Yet none of those things made her proudest. The quality she admired most was his character. Despite everything he had achieved, he remained grounded. Kind. Respectful. Compassionate. The values she tried to teach had stayed with him, and that meant more than any award ever could. A few months later, something unexpected happened. The story of the surprise began spreading. Not because Keanu wanted publicity. In fact, he preferred privacy. But guests who attended the celebration shared how deeply the event had moved them. People everywhere responded. The reason was simple. The story wasn't really about a celebrity. It was about Gratitude. And gratitude is something everyone understands. Messages poured in from people across different backgrounds. Many shared stories about their own parents. Others spoke about sacrifices made by grandparents, guardians, teachers, or mentors. The story inspired conversations about appreciation. About family. About remembering those who helped us become who we are. One particular message caught Patricia's attention. It came from a young woman named Emma. Emma explained that she had spent years taking her mother's support for granted. After hearing about the surprise, she decided to write a heartfelt letter expressing her appreciation. The response from her mother had changed their relationship. Patricia was deeply touched. Simple act of gratitude had created a ripple effect, and that ripple continued spreading. Months passed, then a year. Life settled into a comfortable rhythm. The ocean house became more than a home. It became a gathering place. Friends visited. Family celebrated holidays there. Laughter filled the rooms. New memories joined old ones. The walls that once displayed photographs now represented an ongoing story. One afternoon, while sitting on the porch, Patricia noticed a young couple walking along the beach. They appeared worried. Their conversation seemed serious, though she couldn't hear the words. She recognized the expressions. Life was challenging them. The sight reminded her of something she had learned over the years. Everyone is fighting battles we cannot see. The person smiling may be carrying enormous burdens. The person succeeding may have endured countless failures. The person helping others may need encouragement themselves. That understanding had guided her entire life. And it remained true. The greatest kindness often comes from people who understand struggle. Several days later, Keanu visited again. As always, he arrived without fanfare. No entourage. No attention. Just a son visiting his mother. They spent the afternoon talking on the porch. At one point, Patricia asked a question. What made you decide to do all this? Keanu smiled. You really want to know? I do. He looked toward the ocean. For a moment, he seemed to search for the right words. Then he spoke. When people succeed, they sometimes forget where they came from. Patricia listened carefully. I never wanted that to happen. Breeze moved gently through the air. You spent years believing in me before there was any reason to. His voice remained calm. You supported dreams that hadn't happened yet. Patricia's eyes softened, and I realized something. What? The people who help us become who we are deserve to know their efforts mattered. For several moments, neither spoke. The truth of those words lingered between them. Many people spend their lives giving. Teaching. Encouraging. Supporting. Yet they rarely hear the impact they have made. Sometimes appreciation arrives too late. Sometimes it never arrives at all. Keanu had chosen not to wait. And that choice made all the difference. As the years continued passing, the ocean house gained a reputation among family and friends, not because of its location. Not because of its beauty, but because of the atmosphere inside. Everyone who visited felt welcome. Comfortable. Valued. The same qualities Patricia had spent her life creating wherever she went. In many ways, the house became an extension of her character. Warm. Inviting. Generous. One summer evening, a family gathering filled the backyard. Children played games on the lawn. Adults shared stories around tables. Music drifted softly through the air. As Patricia looked around, she felt overwhelmed by gratitude. Not for possessions. Not for accomplishments, but for relationships. The people she loved, the memories they created together. The opportunity to witness another beautiful chapter of life. At that moment, she realized something profound. The dream house had never truly been the destination. It was simply the setting. The real treasure was the love inside it. Years later, long after the surprise had taken place, people still talked about that unforgettable day. But interestingly, they rarely focused on the house itself. Instead, they remembered the emotions, the tears, the gratitude. The recognition. The reminder that kindness matters, that sacrifices matter, that people matter. The story became an example of something timeless. Success is meaningful. Achievement is valuable, but gratitude gives those things. Purpose. Without gratitude, accomplishments often feel empty. With gratitude, even small moments become extraordinary. One evening, as the sun disappeared beneath the horizon, Patricia sat alone on the porch. The same porch where she had stood on the day of the surprise. The same porch where countless memories had been created. The ocean stretched endlessly before her. The sky glowed with shades of gold and orange. She thought about her life, the struggles, the victories. The lessons, the people, the unexpected turns. And through it all, one truth became clear. Every act of kindness leaves a mark. Sometimes we see the results. Sometimes we don't. But kindness never truly disappears. It continues, traveling through lives. Through generations, through moments we may never witness. The support she gave her children had influenced them. Their actions influenced others. Those people influenced still more, a chain of goodness extending far beyond anything she could measure. And perhaps that was life's greatest reward. Not recognition, not wealth. Not attention, but knowing that love continues moving forward. As darkness settled across the shoreline, Patricia smiled. The waves rolled in steadily. The stars began appearing overhead, and in that peaceful moment, she felt something she had spent years helping others discover. Contentment. Not because life had been perfect. It hadn't. Not because every challenge disappeared. They hadn't. But because she understood what truly mattered: love given freely, kindness offered sincerely, relationships nurtured faithfully. Those things endure long after achievements fade. Long after possessions lose importance, long after circumstances change. Back inside the house, framed on a wall near the entrance, hung a simple photograph from the day of the surprise. It showed a mother and son embracing on the front porch. No words were needed. The image captured everything. Sacrifice. Gratitude. Respect. Love. And every visitor who saw it understood the same message: never underestimate the impact of kindness. Never forget the people who believed in you, and never wait too long to say thank you. Because sometimes the greatest gift we can give isn't money, success, or possessions. Sometimes the greatest gift is letting someone know that their love changed a life. And that is exactly what Keanu Reeves had done. Not with a house, but with gratitude. The house was simply the symbol. The real surprise was the reminder that a lifetime of sacrifice had not gone unnoticed, and that reminder became a legacy that would continue inspiring others for years to come.